Welcome back to PipeCast. Here, just before Burley Boy Summer kicks off, we're going to end still a little bit of Virginia, but it's got a little bit more components. It's Virginia-based. This is the third entry in our Melville At Sea by Cornell Diehl. This is John Marr. We'll get over there and see what that blend is composed of.
Yes, sir.
All right. What we have here is Cornell Diehl's John Marr, the next entry in the Melville At Sea collection. Now, what this is comprised of is Red Virginia, Bright Virginia, Perique, Burley, Orientals, and Black Cavendish. Now, this is categorized as a Virginia ribbon, and based on the tin, it is a poetic mixture of bright and red Virginias with a good portion of Turkish leaf, elevated by a little bit of Perique and Black Cavendish, and then topped with the flavors of bourbon and vanilla. All right, so it looks very heavily dominated by the Virginias and the Turkish leaf. There are a few portions of darker leaf poking through, which is some kind of combination of Perique and Black Cavendish. But it definitely does seem to be dominated by the Virginias and the Orientals. And there's some Burley, it says in there, but it's it could be hiding in there with some of the Virginias and the Orientals here, but seems to be a very Virginia heavy blend. I'm excited to get in there and see how it smokes.
Well, that was John Marr, another entry into the Melville At Sea series that we're sort of doing here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you kick off because I'm still deciding how I want to formulate what I want to say.
Yeah. So, our first two blends, were cigar leaf blends. That was kind of the like the whole deal with them. Billy Bud and Billy Bud Blonde, they're cigar leaf. I feel more so with Billy Bud, I think, because that Latakia and the cigar leaf kind of work together to be a pretty dominant blend, whereas Billy Bud Blonde, with that Latakia pulling back, I think I just didn't notice the cigar that much in that blend. And I think we both like Billy Bud. We both liked Billy Bud Blonde, but we had very different experiences with them.
Uh-huh.
This one is getting more into, I think, Cornell Diehl's bread and butter. And when you hear somebody say bread and butter, most of the time there's a positive connotation there. This is what they do well. I mean it more as in this is typical of a lot of Cornell Diehl blends, where the tobaccos are decent to pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to a lot of their aromatics, at least in the past, it's okay, right? And so I think this blend is getting more into that realm where it's not relying on the tobaccos to lift it up, the quality of the tobacco and the tobacco flavors. It's relying more on that bourbon vanilla flavoring, which is good. It's a good flavoring. I kind of went back and forth as to whether or not I get a chemical feeling to it. I think on some days I do, but on some days I don't. I think that depends on what you've had to eat and what you've been drinking. What are you pairing it with? So sometimes I think you can get a chemical quality with this blend, but when you don't, it's a relatively good blend. I mean, it's nothing to write home about. I think it's definitely lower when in like as far as if we're ranking the Melville At Sea series, it's at the bottom so far. We'll have one more that will be during Burley Boy Summer. That's Redburn, and I feel like it's probably going to be better than this, but I have no idea. But I got a feeling it will be. So I think this, I feel safe to say this is probably the lesser of all of the Melville At Seas, but it definitely is so far. Billy Bud and Billy Bud Blonde are both superior blends. But I think it's just because this ventures closer to a brick and mortar style aromatic. It kind of ventures really close to that. I don't think it's super goopy, but it is overly sweet, and I think that hurts it because there are decent tobaccos in here. It's a bed of Virginias with some Latakia and some Orientals involved there, and so it's got some things going on with it, but it's all kind of dominated by that topping. So I mean, if you really like bourbon vanilla toppings, I think you'll find this to be a very nice blend. I can't speak on how it compares to other bourbon vanilla cased blends. I mean, I would say this is better than plum pudding bourbon barrel aged.
Well, it's definitely more
bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
probably.
So if you're going for that, this is better. But I don't seek out these kind of aromatics a lot. I prefer. I mean, this is close, but I prefer the Tonquin bean and the Star Anise and Anisette and stuff like that. That's kind of where I go. Bourbon vanilla, it is what it is. But yeah, I mean it's okay. I mean just if you want to. Well, we'll get to that later. Have you been able to piece it out? Make any headway with it?
Well, it ain't good. I mean, my opinion of it ain't good. It ain't great. Like Cornell Diehl, like, what are you doing? Sometimes, like I don't think that everything suffers from something, and I can't identify it. But I'll tell you what it is, because I'm not going to get too far into it, because it just, I don't know. Basically, this blend makes me think something's wrong with my pipe, and I need to clean it out with a pipe cleaner. I feel like there's something in the bottom of my pipe that needs to come out, and it's not like it's whistling or anything, but something like, how like you get old tobacco juice in the bottom of your pipe, and you need to swab it out real quick before you keep smoking, or else you're going to have that kind of acrid flavor.
Yeah.
It's light, but it's there. And I swabbed this thing out like a million times, and then I switched to another bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's still just... it's not great, dude. I attribute that to poor quality Black Cavendish.
Yeah.
Because I have the same experience with bad Cavendish at brick and mortars. Or brick and mortar blends. I don't know.
So you think if they took the Black Cavendish out, you think it'd be a better blend?
Maybe. Or if they stop, it could be the bourbon too. But I doubt it, because I feel like the bourbon and the vanilla are real, like up front, like all Cornell or American aromatics, and then it burns off really quickly.
Yeah.
So if you didn't have the Black Cavendish potentially creating an acrid taste, I think then you could pull out more of the Virginia and the Turkish and the Perique. Potentially.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I keep a pretty clean pipe. I usually, even if I'm, I'll swab it pretty regular. But
swab a lot?
Swab a lot.
Okay.
Swab a lot.
You gotta clean those pipes.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just like, if it's even remotely going to continue with an acrid, I mean, I could be wrong. I doubt it, because it's the same stuff that I deal with shoddy Cavendish.
Yeah.
And if I'm dealing with it with shoddy Cavendish on the regular, and I'm tasting it here, knowing that I keep my pipes pretty clean,
yeah, that's probably it.
That's probably it.
I mean, we both. I mean, we haven't talked about this blend because I think this is your first time with it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of a first impression. I've been smoking on it for a little bit, and we both haven't. We both are coming to that same conclusion.
Well, you lived with it for a little while. I haven't lived with it for a while.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. And, I think we're still coming to the same conclusion, is that it's more reminiscent of older Cornell Diehl aromatics, which have been notorious to be closer to that brick and mortar kind of, And so it just seems weird. Like I said, I think overall this series so far, the Melville At Sea, is very... It's kind of like I don't know why I'm always on like a pop culture reference kick, but like 'cause I think that can relate sometimes. But like this is kind of like Star Wars sequel trilogy. Like I compare this series. There's no direction. Like you have Billy Budd, which is a burly bass with some cigar leaf, all that stuff.
Not terrible.
Yeah, not terrible. Not terrible. It's good. It's fine. And then, then you have Billy Budd Blonde.
Super terrible, then super great.
Super great. But it is...
like...
Yeah, but it's the same blend. They just pulled the letter key out, right?
Yeah.
And they kept the name the same. They just added an adjective or whatever to it. Then you go into this, which is a Virginia Ribbon aromatic, doused in bourbon and vanilla, which maybe has some, the bourbon part. I mean, if it's Melville at Sea, why is it not rum? Why is it bourbon?
Right. That's a good question.
And so, like, there's
wow, you're really hitting it where it does feel directionless. It looks like they got several blends, and they're just like, well, crap, we only got the one Billy Budd. Let's just get it in there, you know?
So, like, it just feels like, overall, I mean, like I said, there's good blends mixed in here. And, the tail of the tape will be with Redburn. Redburn.
Which will either be super great or super terrible.
Yeah, but still, even if it's great, I still think this whole series is just directionless. There's, like I said, there's so many things they could have done. I just feel like they didn't take their time with it. Maybe they had a rush to put some kind of new series out. Mm-hmm. Maybe they were working on something else and somehow it fell through, and then they had to quickly... I don't know what the timeline is on when blends feel like they need to put out new stuff on the market. I don't know if they're like, once a quarter or whatever.
But it's like you have the recipes for everything else, and then you experiment with the new stuff. So why would you rush something out to market?
I don't know.
You should be experimenting for a longer period of time.
Yeah, R&D it. Research, develop, all that stuff. So it's. Yeah, they missed the mark, I think, with the naming convention on a lot of them. At least with Billy Budd Blonde. Like, that's lazy marketing.
Yeah, it could have been White Whale. It could have been anything.
Yeah, anything, really.
You name the ships, whatever. But,
and then again, there's not any consistency. Like, I mean, I can already see, you comment this is fine, but you could say the same with Dan Tobacco's American History that we're also going through. There's a lot of variation there. There's not a single through line when it comes to the blend. Now, the theme there's a single through line with the theme, but each blend's a little bit different.
Well, I think Midnight Ride and Ironsides are similar. Independence and Liberty are very similar, and I think that Patriot Flake is their salute to Virginia because it's Patriot, but like you could actually make a comparison, which I think we already did, a Patriot Flake and Beermeister.
Yeah, which is not in the American History mixtures, but it is another Dan Tobacco.
It's another Dan Tobacco. So it's kind of like, I feel like they're in keeping.
Well, that's the thing. I guess I'm coming down to, it's great when a series of blends has a consistent theme and marketing wise and blend wise. That's your perfect world. Most of the time, you're going to be more like American History mixture, where there's a consistency on the marketing, but there's variations in the blends, right? Like, I mean, look at Captain Earl's Honor blend. Like, there's varying blends across there, but they all have that same theme to them.
I want to do a Captain Earl's. I want to do some of those blends because the original Captain Earl's, right? We've talked about before.
Yeah.
And it whips the pants off of most of these blends.
Oh yeah. But and that's all blended in the same house, right?
Right. Yeah.
But this one, I think it.
Well, Captain Earl's Honor blend is a Cornell and Diehl blended thing, but it was blended by someone else.
Yeah, it's kind of like peas, right?
Got a peas thing going
on. But the thing about these is that Melville at Sea suffers from being directionless with the marketing and being directionless with the blends themselves. And it's twofold. And I think it's just, like I said, Billy Bud is a really good blend. I really like it a lot. Blonde, I mean, to you, the second half of the bowl is one of the greatest blends ever made.
Yeah, but you can't keep it, but it won't stay.
No, it's...
I mean, when I say...
You have to suffer.
You have to suffer to get it to there. Yeah. And that's annoying.
Yeah.
But I mean, it kind of isn't. Like, you know what I mean? Because it's so good, but it's irritating because you're like, why couldn't you just be this way through the whole bowl?
Yeah, and then you get.
You would assume you would be in a situation similar to this one.
Yeah, where it's just not that great the whole way through.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a series. Like I said, we'll probably touch on it again when we get to Red Burn, but yeah, it's fine. Like for me, it's fine, but you don't need it. You don't need it.
Right.
I mean, if you're really interested in it, you know, get it. But I mean, your time's better served somewhere else, smoking something else.
Yeah, I definitely would skip over this. I think you're gonna find that there is something better out there.
Yeah.
Well, I want to try that. Cuban? What is that? I recommended something. Havana Nights. Cuban
Havana
Nights?
Daydream.
Havana Daydream.
Yeah.
Because if it's like, isn't it like blonde? Isn't that what they said?
I think so. Yeah, I think they said Was it Stickman?
Yeah, I think
Ryan?
so.
Ryan, I think Ryan said that. So
I think I would like to try that.
Yeah, I was actually the other day. I'm gonna need to I think I'm gonna need to replenish my component blends because I mean they're other than the Black Cavendish they're dry as a bone, and so I was gonna. And two, I got granulated Perique and I got Q-cut Burley. So I think I'm going to try to get them all ribboned or at least some kind of broken flake. And so I went through smoking pipes and I was looking at all the bulk Cornell Diehl you can buy. And I was just going to go ahead and re-up 2 ounces on all those. And I saw Havana Daydream. And I'm like, well, I'll go ahead and grab that. And I think him or someone else recommended that I would probably like Morley's blend or Motley's blend. And I saw it too. You can get it in bulk. So we'll probably look at that at some point.
Okay, yeah.
Reviewing those. But yeah, so yeah, we don't recommend it. You know, it's I hate to end our path of Virginias on this, but you know,
well, it's not necessarily Virginia.
No,
but it's got Turkish in it. It's got Cavendish in it.
Yeah.
It's got Perique in it. It's got Virginia in it, and I'm sure it's a Virginia base because
Yeah.
the Virginia is pronounced. But then the acridness of the Black Cavendish just sucks all the life out of the rest of the tobacco.
And so that's the other thing, I guess. Another strike on them in the marketing. The little subtitle underneath Billy Bud says Burley, whatever. And it's like, Billy Bud doesn't feel like a Burley-based blend to me. It feels more like a Kia cigar. This one says Virginia Ribbon. It's like, what are you doing, you know? I mean,
yeah, I just don't. It's all. I don't want to say it's all right because I don't like it, but
we don't want to lie to you, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say PipeCast says skip over John Marr.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, especially if you're going to get something more out of Billy Bud Blonde, even if you have to suffer through it. Why suffer through a whole bowl? Why take the risk?
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well,
that's kind of a first hard knock we've given in a while. But yeah, John Marr.
Well, speaking of that, this is worse than Royal Yacht. Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because of Cavendish.
Yeah. All right. Well,
if you don't do Cavendish right, you're in for a bad review from me. And the only way to just be careful with your Cavendish. Or definitely be careful with how much you blend into the blend with Cavendish.
Yeah.
Because it should mellow and elevate, not acrid and kind of reduce. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so we say skip it, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode, which will be the start of Billy Bud Summer.
Billy Bud?
Burley Boy Summer. I do not want to do Billy Bud Summer.
Billy Bud Summer, boys. It's just us on the ship.
and then you commit murder by accident. Then I have to, I basically have to kill you or sentence you to death.
What?
Even though I know you didn't do it on purpose, I'm just gotta
Hey man, it's the rules of the sea.
Rules of the sea, man. Laws of mutiny. But so we'll see you next time.